Now on Money News, let's talk business. Thanks to Judo Bank, boldly backing business. Visit judo.bank.
Yes, let's talk business. Thank you so much to our great sponsors, Judo Bank. This is our weekly deep dive into the issues that affect Aussie SMEs. The stories of their success, the hurdles they've jumped over, and of course all the lessons they've learned along the way. Of course, it is springtime right now, literally and figuratively for SMEs. We've had a winter spent in COVID-induced hibernation, but we're just weeks, even days away from reopening, and that means we need new views, new ideas, and new insights into what it takes to run a successful business and also take them to the next level in a post-pandemic Australia. So I'm really looking forward to sharing all of that with you on Let's Talk Business. Let's get into it. Small business is the backbone of the economy. We all know the phrase, but I wanted to give you some fast facts to remind you why we say that. 2.4 million SMEs in Australia employ 7.5 million people. And that means roughly 60% of the entire workforce are employed by small and medium-sized businesses, accounting for about 40% of GDP. So these are really big numbers. And it's the reason we talk about SMEs collectively as the economic engine room. Now, we are now entering a crucial phase of our post-pandemic economic recovery. We've got SMEs actively looking to finance their businesses. They want to find growth. The demand is there. But alarmingly, when SMEs are going to lenders, too many of them are being knocked back. And it is threatening to stall this recovery even before it's begun. Now, having said that, we discussed previously on this program just last week, there is a new wave of entrants driving major changes when it comes to SME lending, and the benefits are certainly significant. Joseph Healy is the co-founder and CEO of Judo Bank, the challenger bank flipping the script on SME finance. And as I said, they're great sponsors of ours here on Let's Talk Business. Joseph, great to chat to you again.
It's great to chat, Brooke. Always a pleasure.
You commissioned at the Judo a really comprehensive piece of research recently on the SME funding landscape. Just tell us a little bit about what it tells of the outlook for Aussie SMEs as we transition now from survival to recovery mode.
Well, we surveyed just over 1,750 businesses around the country, businesses with a turnover between $1 and $50 million. And what we found was a generally very optimistic outlook. People see that 2022 is going to be a very different year from 2021. And so a number of businesses, almost a quarter of businesses, are looking at some form of investment to really get the business and get the economy back on its feet. The challenges that businesses have faced, however, is that approximately a half of those, or 48% of those, that have applied for funding in the last 6 months have been unsuccessful in getting funding. So in practice, it's been about 1 in 4. So 1 in 4 businesses that have applied for funding have been able to get access to funding, and that's frustrating because it means that decisions that businesses intend to make around investment. So 1 in 3 of the SMEs that were refused a loan had planned to hire staff and invest in their businesses for growth. So that was the first thing, that's a high rate of disappointment. The second thing that was a source of frustration for a lot of businesses, the time that it takes to get an answer out of the banks when they apply for loans. It can take, on average, about 6 weeks to get a decision, and that is really quite disappointing and frustrating when it comes to making decisions to invest. You want certainty of access to money, and so that, first of all, the difficulty in getting access to credit, and secondly, when you do, it can take such a long time and to be such an onerous process, which really just is not conducive to supporting small businesses that want to get on and invest and help get the economy back to a pre-COVID momentum.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just as you're talking there and those figures you're describing, we're talking about economic recovery, but this is like a ball and chain around the ankles, really, isn't it? It seems like there's such a risk-averse approach to lending from the lenders, even though you've got this massive built-up demand from small businesses. And, it's having real-world ramifications, but the economic impact is massive.
Well, it is significant when you think for a second that 1 in 3 SMEs that applied for loans and were refused were intending to use the proceeds, the borrowings, to invest in new staff. And in fact,
Yes.
on average, there was 3 new staff. So it is, the implications are material economically. It's not something we do a good job at measuring. We measure what happens, but we don't measure the opportunity cost of what could have happened. And small businesses feel today, as they have done for such a long time, that the banking system has kind of hit them with a triple U virus of unloved, unwanted, and undervalued. And that has to change if we're going to get the momentum in the economy that we need to see in 2022.
So at Judo Bank, you're obviously seeing a huge opportunity to close the funding gap that we've been speaking about. Joseph Healy, the government's small business loan recovery scheme, that's been extended and expanded recently. Now, this is the scheme where the government guarantees 80% of the loan, and there's lots of other features too. What's your take on the effectiveness of this scheme?
Well, the revised scheme, which came into existence last Friday, is a significant enhancement on the 2 earlier versions of the government guaranteed loan scheme. I mean, that's not a criticism of the early inventions, because this was policy that was to some extent developed and implemented on the run when COVID hit the economy back in early 2020. But the version 3 that was announced, went live on 1 October rather, is a much more expansionary, much more inclusive, and has the potential to be a real momentum stimulus for the economy. I mean, essentially, businesses with a turnover of up to 250 million can apply for loans up to $5 million over a period of up to 10 years. It can also allow a holiday period of up to 2 years. So it does provide a funding source for businesses that are going to need capital to invest, working capital and fixed investments, to help get out of this COVID situation that we're in. So, and the fact that the government or the taxpayer will guarantee 80% of any losses that might result from banks extending credit under this scheme, I think is a no excuse, if you will, proposal to the banks to get out there and support businesses. I personally think that it's a major enhancement on the earlier versions of the scheme. I think if it's supported by the banks, and as businesses will know that it's live from 1 October to 31 December, so it's a short window. And so it's really important that businesses are made aware of this scheme, that the banks are promoting it. Judo Bank will certainly be promoting it. And it's important to keep in mind that this is a scheme that has been revamped in order to support those businesses that have done it tough during the lockdown. So, it's the restaurants, it's the hospitality, it's the gyms, it's those businesses that relied on walk-by discretionary consumer expenditure. And this is a great facility. We're very excited about it. We hope that the banking system supports it. We hope that the banking system advertises it loud and clear so that businesses know that it's available, because it has a lot of value, I think, for many, many, many businesses that are going to need capital to help recover and get back on to the business momentum that they had in a pre-COVID world.
And certainly from the perspective of Judo, you have seen this funding gap that we've just been describing as an opportunity, and this SME business loan recovery scheme. This is part of that story. We were chatting last week as well with the Productivity Commissioner. Now, they put out a research paper they just published, and it looked at how small and medium-sized businesses are benefiting from these different players now in the banking space who are offering finance options now that don't require homes or property to be used as collateral. Now, you've worked in business banking for a long time, of course, as we know. This is an evolution that is long overdue, isn't it? And it just seems more timely than ever to be just talking about these different options that people now have as people do look to expand it and want to find the opportunities that are out there.
No question. I mean, the more option, the more competition that's in the market, the better. That small businesses can shop around. Now, I still feel that there's a long way to go. There's certainly over the course of the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen specialist players come into the market, but the market needs a lot more competition. Certainly a step in the right direction, but I wouldn't overplay it. I still think that there's a lack of competition. I think that some of the new entrants are very niche, very specialist in what they do, are limited in what they do. Some can charge a lot of interest on, on relatively low risk facilities. So that's something that has got to be watched out for. But, any step to increase competition, to provide more optionality for small businesses, the better. The last few years has seen some growth in those options, but I would put it on a scale of 3 out of 10, Brooke. I think there's a long way to go. We'll play our role, but we would love to see more options coming into the market, because the SME economy needs more options available to it in terms of supporting growth aspirations.
Joseph Healy, co-founder and CEO of Judo Bank, thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you, Brooke.